news. Racing legend Greg Biffle and part of his family killed in a crash. 7 individuals were killed just this morning after 10 o'clock in Statesville, North Carolina at the airport. We want to bring in Nathaniel, who does so many different things behind the scenes here at WCNC Charlotte. But you have an intricate working knowledge, not only of NASCAR, but really how, Mr. Biffle, one of the top 75 drivers in NASCAR, right, has had such an impact, not only on the sport of NASCAR, but really motorsport as a whole, Nathan. So let's just start there. I mean, this man was a racing driver through and through, wasn't he?
Sure, absolutely. And wish we were here talking under better circumstances about his career or about NASCAR in general, but
right.
Absolutely devastated by the news today to hear that he was killed in this plane crash along with several members of his family and other people as well. But yeah, Greg Biffle, just an absolute icon. I mean, when you think about 2000s NASCAR, there are a few names for NASCAR fans who come to your mind, like Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Matt Kenseth. Greg Biffle's right there. I mean, he was there with Roush Racing for well over a decade. Yeah. And really, I mean, Brad Keselowski, who now owns RFK Racing, who is the current incarnation of the team that Biffle drove for, he said it well that Greg Biffle helped define the era. He helped define that team in the 2000s. Roush Racing became such an enormous racing juggernaut in NASCAR in the 2000s, and I think part of that is because of Greg Biffle. It's because of Mark Martin. It's because of Matt Kenseth. You know, these drivers were so good around that time, and he was great at that. And I think what you're seeing a lot from everyone who's paying tribute to him, and I want to make sure I do this as well, is just the work that he did outside of racing, I think, was so important because, you know, obviously what we've heard is after Hurricane Helene, he was flying his helicopter out to Western North Carolina, delivering supplies. He was helping really with that. And I know we were on top of that coverage, of course, when Hurricane Helene hit and you know, seeing all these people coming together from the community helping out. And he was there, you know, he wasn't just a guy, you know, who lives off Lake Norman or wherever he lived and has a helicopter. You know, he was using his value, using his status to do something really good and impactful for the community. And outside of that, when he was racing, he was very outspoken on animal rights and doing stuff for animal charities and shelters. And so, you know, just a really all-around great guy, and just absolutely heartbroken to hear about this news today.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us remember the images of him in his helicopter, right? That black helicopter dropping off loads of water and food to individuals. And honestly, you know, I know there was a lot of operations ongoing at the state and federal level, but you know, Mr. Biffle was one of the first people to be in contact with so many individuals in Western North Carolina. I remember in one specific case where there was a family they got his attention up in the helicopter with a large mirror, and I just remember he put out on X telling individuals that if that was your family, he made contact with them. I just the essence of care around all these little details that he had. I'm sure he carried that over from NASCAR, but just the immense humanitarian response, right? He was there with Jamaica, and we rolled a clip earlier today about how he felt so far away, but that he still felt like he needed to do something for the people in Jamaica. And so he did have a calling and felt like, he had a stage and a platform to be able to utilize, which I think so many people think and maybe don't think about, right, early on in their career, and maybe utilize it later on. But I think he really understood, what his career was for, and how to really carry himself. So, we are talking a lot about what he did, after racing, but I mean, he put motorsport on the map. I mean, not just NASCAR with stock cars, but also truck racing, right? I mean, people, we can't forget. I mean, he was in the truck series for quite a long time as well, right?
Yeah, he's definitely started his career like any racer down in lower series, but had kind of a meteoric rise out in the early 2000s. Went in there, won the 2000 truck title. Won the 2002 Busch Series, what is now, they just changed the name this year, NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series.
That's right.
Before, for a long time, it was the Xfinity Series. It changes. But he was the first driver to ever do that, to win the championship in both of those series. So
wow.
I just remember during his whole career, you would always hear that all the time. Greg Biffle, at the time, because two guys have done it since, but you would always hear he's the only one who's ever done this. He's the only one who's ever done this.
Right.
And we were always hoping that he would maybe win the Cup Series title and be the first one to have that triple crown, like win all three of those. But he never did get that. But he did. He was very competitive as well in the Cup Series. But yeah, just throughout his whole career, just one of those guys you never count out. I mean, was someone who was always a threat to win just about every week. I mean, part of that is the team he drove for was so dominant, like I said, in the 2000s. But he helped bring that up because, when he came in to Roush Racing in the early 2000s, they were really anchored by Mark Martin. He was the cornerstone driver of the team throughout the 1990s. Yeah. And then they brought in Matt Kenseth in 2000, and he was doing really well as well. But they were always trying to search for that third car, that third driver. And, they tried guys like Kevin LePage or Ted Musgrave or whoever, and never really stuck out. But then Greg Biffle came in 2003 in his rookie year, still in that third car. So you're thinking, and I know you're an F1 guy, so you might know sort of how it works, how like some teams, like even within the same team, might get more resources than others.
Exactly.
And he has that third car that maybe isn't getting as much attention as the other two are, but he still is able to come out in 2003 in his rookie year and win a race. He won the Pepsi 400 at Daytona. He beat out my favorite all-time driver, Bobby Labonte, so I'm still a little bitter about it 22 years later. But he won that race, and I feel like that kind of put him on the map to go out and have the kind of career he had. He nearly won the championship in 2005, narrowly lost it out to Tony Stewart. But, he and all of Roush Racing in the 2000s, and really that kind of anchored that when you think of like Ford drivers in the 2000s. So to me, when I remember him as a racer, like those are the things I'll remember, and an absolute great competitor, and it's a shame that he's no longer with us.
It is. I did reach out to Mr. Denny Hamlin, DM'd him because he said about 47 minutes ago on X that Mr. Biffle was a champion on the track and of course a humanitarian off of it, but he alluded to being one of the fiercest competitors that he had witnessed. What went into that? I mean, because you witnessed it, yourself personally watching NASCAR. Why was he regarded as one of the fiercest competitors? As you said, he was always in it, just kind of never letting up, right, and getting off the pedal, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys who, just had talent. You might think of guys like Kyle Busch or now I guess Denny Hamlin, who kind of a little more aggressive, would kind of ride you up to the wall a little bit. Greg Biffle was never a guy who struck me like that. Was never a guy who was gonna really put the wheel onto someone's bumper if he needed to. He just knew how to get it done, and never. I mean, he had a couple run-ins with a couple guys here and there, as every racer does, but never anything that I think like really defined him as an aggressive driver, like a really clean-nosed kind of guy who just had talent and could get it done, I guess is the best way to summarize it.
Yeah. Well, love to hear your expertise, Nathan, as I know you're an aficionado, an expert on NASCAR and so many players and characters over the last couple of decades. So it's great to have some thoughts as you yourself have witnessed many of these races. So again, want to thank you for your time. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break, folks. We're going to continue our coverage here on this plane crash that killed 7 individuals, including Greg Biffle and his wife and 2 children. We'll be back in 2 minutes.